And I know I've put in requests for books that they don't have, because there's authors I like.
I'm going to go ahead and call us to order so we can get things going. First item is roll call. Please indicate if you're present.
There it is.
Cheryl Caldwell.
Here?
Mark Nelson.
Here.
Steve Corey. Here. Carrie Glenn.
Here.
Dave Neal.
Here.
Megan Larson.
Present.
Andrea Pogue.
Here.
Scott Walters.
Here.
And Victoria Madrigal sent out a note that she would not be able to attend. We will, and for ex officio members, Councilwoman Genesis Milam.
Here.
And Rochelle Klein.
Here.
Quorum being present, we will move on to business. The agenda had been submitted by email. I don't know if there's any comments on the agenda or motions.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as written. Any comments? Seeing none, sensing the commission is ready for a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion passes. Thank you. The first item, the only item on the agenda, is a presentation on Dow Packaging and Specialty Plastics and the Keep America Beautiful Orange Bag Grant Program. John Piper, if you would come up here, introduce yourself, and we appreciate you informing us on this program.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I will just introduce myself quickly. I am the Associate Director for Dow's North American Packaging and Specialty Plastics business, and I do a lot of the end-of-life sustainability work on a North American basis. I live in Toronto, Canada, but I cover North America, so I'm traveling constantly. Spent over like 110 days last year on the road. But I appreciate the time to talk to you about the Hefty Energy Bag program. This is a program that we've done a number of years ago, and I'll go to a little bit to the background on that. I'm also going to cover the challenge that we face as a plastics producer. We are the world's largest producer of polyethylene. Polyethylene goes into a whole bunch of materials, automotive, construction, but a lot of it is in packaging. You just go to the grocery store, everything plastic that you see, all the flexible plastic packaging, that's polyethylene predominantly. And I'm going to talk about the Hefty Energy Bag program, which is a result of some of the issues that we are facing and how we're growing the program out and what our role is as we go forward on this. So first of all, just a little bit of background on plastic packaging in general and the sustainability aspects of plastic packaging. There's a lot of sustainable advantages of preserving food, for example. It reduces the material that are used. It's a lot lighter material versus, say, glass or metal products, which saves energy in the transportation of these materials. It extends the shelf life of products. If you wrap a cucumber, a banana in plastic film, just basic plastic film, you can more than double the life of that product. And anytime you can extend the shelf life, you reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of other advantages. Multi-material laminate structures, I'll talk a little bit more about. These are the, as you folks probably well know in this space, is that these are the materials made of a bunch of different products. That, you know, chip bags, it could be chocolate bar wrappers, it could be your pet food bags. They're not just one product, and anytime you need to recycle plastic, it needs to be separated in its individual component, and these materials basically cannot be recycled. Thank you. Why can't they be recycled? Again, because they're made of multi-material laminate structures. And so that's really one of the main reasons we did this program, is to focus on these type of materials that can't be mechanically recycled. But we kept the message in the communities that we've introduced the program simple, rather than saying just focus on these type of multi-material laminate structures. Most people don't know what that is. And so we've kept the message simple, that if you aren't able to recycle that plastic product in your bin today or cart today, don't throw it in the trash, put it in the energy bag material. We'll find a valuable home for it through energy recovery. I'm not going to go through all these other reasons why these materials are challenged, but you also need a viable end market. You can't just collect these materials out and send them anywhere. You need to have a quality of the material that can be used in these end markets. So that brings us to why we did the Hefty Energy Bag program. Our purpose was to divert these plastics from landfill. We wanted to be responsible stewards of these materials. And so we said, how do we do this? Well, first of all, you need to collect them. Well, how do you collect them? So we said, let's see if we can do it at a residential curbside. So this program is predominantly a residential curbside program. I will talk a bit about commercial aspects that came out as a result of introducing a curbside program, and some other non-curbside programs that we've introduced in towns that do have a curbside program like this. And so we wanted to see, can we collect these materials at a quality that's acceptable for these end markets as well? And so the way the program works is the homeowner is provided a kit, as we refer to it. This is depending on the size of bag and the mill size of the bag. In Boise, they've decided to go with a little bit bigger bag because of the 3 to 7 issue that you folks have here, as they do. But the homeowner is provided the kit. Whether the city buys the kit for the homeowners, whether the homeowners pay for that through their utility bill, like the recycling bill, that needs to be determined by every city. So the homeowner takes those kits. There's about 26 bags in every kit, which is enough for a year's supply, typically a year's supply. And the homeowner fills those bags up. Once it's filled up, every couple of weeks, say that they then put it in their recycling cart with the regular loose recycled material. It's picked up by the regular hauler at the same time. It's sent to the regular MRF. So the infrastructure doesn't change at all. We're just piggybacking on that recycling infrastructure for these bags. The bags then end up at the MRF. Because they're bright orange, there's a bit of training that has to happen with the MRF so that they pull it off right at the front tipping floor. Sometimes it goes up the first conveyor belt and it's pulled off at the first picking line. It does not go through the MRF. The bags are never opened. The bags are pulled off, stored, they're baled. When there's enough to put a truck together, we arrange the freight down to the end market. In this case, renewology, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, that technology. I can talk a little bit about that technology as well if you have questions. What they do with it down there is it's a pyrolysis unit. That's an oxygen-free, people call it an oxygen-free burn. It's not a direct heating of the material, it's a heating of the chamber that the material's in, causes a chemical reaction, it turns it into a feedstock that can be used to make a liquid fuel, and typically these kind of technologies used to make diesel. The beauty of these kind of technologies from a chemical company point of view is we can actually pull the chemical out of that product and create new plastics again. So this gives us now that closed loop circular economy system that we're all striving for. We are working hard on this over and beyond this particular project, but that's the holy grail for us as a plastic manufacturer, is to use these technologies to get to that point. We did a pilot in Citrus Heights, California back in 2014 for about a 3-month period. We collected about 8,000 bags, diverted about 6,000 pounds of non-recycled plastics from landfill, and we used a similar technology up in Seattle, which is no longer doing this up in Seattle, and they converted into about 512 gallons of a fuel oil. We surveyed the citizens afterwards, and over 85% of them said that they would participate again if they were given the opportunity. They were not given the opportunity there because the freight cost was just too much for an ongoing program to be supported. So we then took the program to Omaha, Nebraska. And there's a number of communities around Omaha that are involved with the program. We're growing that program out even further this year. And these are no longer pilots. We've proven that it works. You can collect the material at curbside. You can collect it in a quality that can be used for a suitable end market. And so these are self-sustaining ongoing systems now that we're putting in place. And these are the partners that we worked with in Omaha. Reynolds is the one that makes the bags. Recycle Bank, if you're familiar with them, is like a frequent flyer type program. They're a frequent recycling program. You get points for going on their website and doing little tests and quizzes, and they give you coupons to buy your Tide detergent or something like that. So we use them to go to the initial 6,000 households. They're not in every city, but they're out trying to grow recycling, their recycling model that way. First Star is the local MRF in Omaha, and they do not have the pyrolysis technologies in the Omaha area, so we use Systech Environmental, which is a cement kiln, which love the heat value of plastics, which have the same, almost the same energy value as oil and natural gas that plastics are made from. And then ConAgra is the local brand owner in the area that was involved in the program. This is just a list of some of the material that's accepted into the bag. And again, understand, we are focusing more on the flexible plastic packaging, although your situation here is going to be a lot more rigids in it. That's why the bigger bag was sought after here. We put out communications, messages with the kit that it comes with, and talking to the Boise folks, they're going to provide their own information as well, specific to their challenges here. Is it possible to play that video
Yes.
at this time?
I
Just
think
to-
he added it, let me see. I have to have the IT person, is he gone? He said that he,
You're the IT person now.
yeah, how would I find the video?
He said he brought it
He
up.
had the website up.
Okay, so let me see here.
I think he was on, said he was on the other screen.
Okay. Oh, okay. Do you see, okay, well, just a minute, just
While you're doing that,
Sorry.
I'll just keep going
This
while you're.
might go.
So there's different purchase models on how the citizens get their kits, for example. We have found that it works best when it's a utility type program, when it's already part of their utility bill or tax bill, like you're doing with your recycling program here.
Are you ready for the video?
Let's do that now. Yeah,
Okay.
just a bit of background. If you haven't seen this is on YouTube. This is one of the many pieces of communication that are out there about the program. Just helps describe what the program is. I'm not sure if there's any volume on that.
Volume on that?
Is it possible to start that over with the volume?
Maybe volume on the big TVs.
Do you want me to grab the IT guy? Where's IT? Oh, yeah. Oh. Okay.
Why didn't we think of that?
Yeah, there's 1,000 icons.
Just try it here.
Oh, you have it, it's always on this screen here.
Oh, here, he's got it.
Oh, he's got it.
Oh, your audio on the video.
Anyway, has anybody seen the video on the website? I'd encourage you to do that. There's a couple of them out there.
We'll get it.
We're going to get it?
We're gonna get it.
IT's gonna get it. They know how to do this, right?
Mr. Piper? Mr. Piper, perhaps, can we go, while we're waiting, could we go back to the list of the, are they 3 through 7s? That was listed there?
Well, what's listed in our standard program is more flexible material. There are some things like straws,
And toothpaste.
toothpaste tubes, plastic
Yes,
toothpaste.
that's what I thought. If not now, later, could we go back to that?
Sure.
That slide and just read some of those so
Most
that the
toothpaste tube-
audience can
Absolutely.
really get a flavor of this?
Absolutely.
I noticed that you had disposable razor blades in there without blades. Does that presume the concept that the head can be just disengaged and thrown away, or does the consumer have to break the thing to?
Yeah, I mean, if it gets to be a hassle like that, you might as well just throw it out. I mean, you
Right.
don't want someone cutting their hand or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, we're just saying, because those are questions that we've had from people over the years, is what can be put into it?
Mm-hmm.
Can this be put in? Well, yeah, it could if you want to do that.
So,
Yes.
I guess if I could just interject for 1 second, to say that it's a really good idea. I mean, the list is extensive, but it might be a good idea. I know that we're just having these conversations now with Boise, and we'll hear more from them later, that it might be so complicated that they're looking at a standard package, which would be like 3 through 7, and liners of like cereal boxes and, frozen food covers and like the films, the basic plastic films and 3 through 7 plastics, and then have what's called like a super recycler list for people who really want to deep dive, because the risk that we run is Renewology has been really clear that they need a really clean feedstock. And if we start sending them, if we make this too complicated for the user, we risk adding garbage to that, and that will be very detrimental to the program. We need to make sure that these are recoverable, usable materials by the end user. In this case, it's Renewology, and they can take for sure the 3 through 7 plastics and films, the clean films. So whatever that looks like, that seems like a good place to start, and we'll have plenty of those. And all of these other ones, like Boise is now looking at pivoting and having a super recycler column where people, if they feel comfortable with the first layer of the orange energy bag, they can deep dive into the toothpaste, the razors with the heads broken off, the foam meat trays with the absorbent pads pulled out, all that stuff. But it's every community, I know John had said, every community has the ability to determine how this looks and how it's simplest for their constituents. So I just encourage you to keep that in mind as you review this. Do you have anything to add to that, John? I mean, it's probably different when it's being incinerated because your risk is lower than if it's being made into synthetic diesel. The high quality of the material is really important.
It's very important for the end market. And I'll show you some numbers on this slide a little bit later, is what we've collected in Omaha has been very good quality material. And there's a direct relationship with the amount of communication you do with the homeowner and how good a quality material you have. You can never over-communicate, as I'm sure you all know, with homeowners on what you want them to put where. And yeah, we don't get a lot of razor blades. I mean, I've done a number of audits in Omaha, and I've never seen stuff like that. But those are just put on the list because people ask us those things. The message, again, we keep really simple to the homeowner is, if you're not able to recycle it today in your cart, don't put it in the trash, put it in the energy bag. We've seen very, very little food material in the containers, which is great. We see about 6% paper. We see other, what we'll call contaminants, are things like the coffee pods, K-cup pods, where people just aren't taking the time to take the foil off, taking the liner out and the grinds out. So we consider that on an audit as a total contamination. Even though you can get energy value out of the container itself, that's a total contamination when we do a count. If the video's a problem, I can if you just put the slides back up, I can go forward with that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. And what we can do is, I can get the link from John and forward it to Steve and the committee if that helps, and then we can all watch it later.
Thank you, Rochelle.
I think you're in control.
I don't see any slides here.
We all see your slides that you've got with it.
That's why IT has a job.
Mr. Piper, could we go back to why it failed in Seattle? How far, where were they ship freighting to? How far did it have to go?
In Seattle. It was in California where the actual pilot was. It was shipped such a long distance up to Seattle.
Up to Seattle.
The distance didn't justify continuing the program in the eyes of the local city, and I would agree. We've done a life cycle assessment, though, of what distance makes sense for a program like this, and it was a lot more than we ever thought it was going to be. It's over 800 miles is acceptable from an environmental point of view. That's why taking it down to Salt Lake is still fine. The issue is not an environmental one at that distance. The issue becomes an economic one at that distance. But as part of the price of the bag, we cover the freight to the end market. Okay? So to Stephen, your question earlier to me about can any bag be used, you can use any bag on a bag-for-bag basis, but there's a whole bunch of other things we include in the cost of the bags. One is the freight component up to X amount.
And to be clear, is that the grant program that covers it?
That's the price of the bag covers a number of things, such as the initial delivery to the city, and they're made down in Texas, so the delivery is included. There's some component in there for MRF support, for the MRF to handle the material, to sort it out, to store and bale it. The freight, as I mentioned. Composition audits. We do the first 2 composition audits in the first year. That's not even covered by the bags. That's something we cover ourselves just to make sure the quality is acceptable to your end market and give you an idea how you might want to change your communication. If we're finding a lot of food waste, for example, you maybe need to communicate with the homeowners, we need to make sure you don't put food waste in here. The broker costs, the broker's the one that works with the MRF to arrange the truck to take the shipment down. That's covered. Program startup and technical support. We offer my time to be here, for example, today and working with the city and the hauler on starting up a program based on our experience. And that includes the communication portions of it. We provide communication templates to be used as examples that we've done in the past. And vetting of the end market. I'm in the process right now of hiring a third-party environmental consultant to do an analysis of renewology. And we're going to share those results if that's something that you guys are going to be part of the program. So there's a whole bunch of other things involved rather than just the cost of buying bags.
Thank you.
I still don't see my
quick-
slides here, but
Right. So quick question on that. What's your expectation for your timing of completing your review and audit of the end user?
I just gave them the green light earlier this week. I've asked them to do it in 2 to 3 weeks, so by the end of the month, end of February.
Okay.
John, can you tell me why you have 8-gallon and 30-gallon sizes? 8 is so small, and 30 is kind of over the top, hard to find like an indoor 30-gallon trash can to
So the
recycle.
first 2 programs we did use the 8-gallon. They wanted to use the 8-gallon bags because they were just going for the film, the flexible materials, right? That's where the program started and what we do. You folks are different in this area. You're different because you're doing the 3 to 7s as well. So that's why it's a bigger bag. The 30-gallon bag is for the commercial application. So what happened when we went to Omaha, the MRF got calls from commercial operations in town and said, hey, I understand you're doing this curbside program. I got a lot of that stuff. Can I be part of it? So we now made 30-gallon bags for the commercial units to be part of that, to have it sent to the MRF to be sent to their end market there. So that's why there's that big a bag. In fact, we're going to go with a 55-gallon commercial bag as well because they want even a bigger bag.
So are you planning on making one somewhere in between for the household? Because for us, 8 is obviously just
So
pretty small.
here, Boise's going with the 13. Boise's going with the 13-gallon bag. And that's a special bag. That's a special one just for Boise. And I'm sure if the other areas are going to eventually do that, it'd be for you folks as well.
And I think, John,
Thanks.
just to, and I haven't heard the final word on this, but I think too that you're in charge of, Dow is taking the lead on the retail side of this, like partnering with Albertsons or partnering with, local retailers to actually stock these. Is that right?
Through Reynolds, who's the bag manufacturer, has retail partners. It's not our partners.
Okay.
So they have actually a very good relationship, I'm told, with Albertsons and different stores like that. So, but retail is farther down the road. If you go to retail, then now you're relying on the homeowner, once he's done with his kit, to go to the store and buy it. It works best when it's a utility program that is provided to the homeowner as this is what we're going to be doing now because we can't recycle these. So utility programs work best. Once you go to a retail program after implementing the initial deliveries to the homeowner, the participation rate drops off because you're relying on them to go buy the bag now out of their pocket rather than out of their utility bill. And it's different in the eyes of certain
So,
people.
Mr. Piper, I have a question, and Rochelle. So in Omaha, is it the cities through the utility bills that mail these bags to the customers, or is it the solid waste company that does it?
Every city is different. So what Omaha did is we delivered to the homeowner, and it was on the doorknob delivered with the instructions in it. There was promotions done in advance. There was promotions done afterwards and what they're supposed to do with the program. We've actually, by the way, we've got a TV commercial with the local TV station just on the Hefty Energy Bag program where we have it's like 300 times a month our commercial is shown. We have one live interview every month on their morning talk show. So that's how communications happen here. Boise is going to be delivering the bags to the homeowner as well.
So that was my question, if you don't mind me interrupting, for Rochelle. Will that be through Republic Services or through their solid waste department?
No, that is going to be through their solid waste department.
So is that part of why their initial subsidization is so high that Haley quoted?
I can't, I don't know the answer to that. Oh, the actual, right, the actual distribution piece is probably expensive. I don't know what the cost of that is, but they're handling all the bag purchasing and bag deliveries for everyone to start that.
Because to be clear, as you said, that's not Republic Services
We've
business.
never been retailers, like we have not historically sold things like that. We're not in the bag business, and even for special events and things like that, we direct people to different retailers to get those. So we really don't want to get in the retail business. I mean, we can we can work with the city if that's what the city chooses to do, but just the storing and distributing, and, you know, it's easier for us to have the residents go online and order or through a portal, like maybe, and I maybe Carrie can speak to this too, about adding something like that to the utility bill. That's, I guess, down the line, but those are things we can discuss if the city decides to look at this program closely, and then we can look at some of those details. But we have not historically been in the retail business of like housing them at our site and delivering them. And I think, is that what the hauler does in Omaha?
I missed half of that conversation, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Andrew's question was, how do people in Omaha get their bags? Like if it's through the utility, like they call up and they order them, does Reynolds, is it a drop ship from Reynolds directly, or is it the hauler who delivers them?
So after the initial delivery, where all the participating homeowners got the kit, they're now starting to run out because that program's been going on for about 14 months now. And so they can get the bag from a number of ways. They can get it from the MRF. They can get it from retail. There's a bunch of retail stores set up there. But they're not strictly a utility program like you folks are here. So they don't have the luxury of being able to do an ongoing utility program. So they set up some retail. And the rates have dropped off, quite honestly, because of that. You're relying on the homeowner to go to the store to buy the bags out of their own pocket. At a higher price than what the city gets initially to have it delivered, quite honestly. And you go online, and there's other fees online, because it's this online beast of there's depending on how many you order. If you just buy one kit and you got to pay the delivery, that's even a higher price. So again, you see that drop off. But those services are available. But because you have the utility type aspect, that's the proper way of doing it. And I would envision, I don't know your business, but I would envision if you charge the homeowner X amount for a recycling service, your recycling service is going to go away for the 3 to 7s. Why not continue to charge them, but now include a Hefty energy bag component of that? You're still charging them X amount, and we're now recycling 1s and 2s, but we now have a recovery home for those 3 to 7s. It would be a perfect thing. And if they need to do it, they can either come, I don't know, you'd have to work out where they get those bags. I understand the haulers may not want to deliver those themselves, but how do you get those bags to them when someone says, hey, I'm now out? What they're doing in Cobb County, Georgia, who's the other winner of the grant, is they're envisioning this being just dropped off by the hauler when someone needs one and put on the cart, put on the handle, not having to walk it up to the door every time. But he's done loading the cart, put it on the handle of the cart when that guy wants a new one. So he obviously has to have addresses and things like that. Not every community will want to do that, but that's just the way Cobb County's talking about doing it. Okay. I don't have a screen here, so I'm going to have to step back every now and then. So I want to just highlight here non-curbside programs. In addition to the curbside program, which is the primary driver of why you'd want to do this, we've done a number of non-curbside programs. We've done a number of conferences in town. We actually have an agreement in Omaha with the local arena, the sports arena. They do collection programs at the arena. There's bins set up with Hefty energy bag bins where people put their material in the bins. You don't get great quality material, but it's a great way to promote the program to the local residents. So I just highlight that. They also hold there, if you know Omaha in baseball, that's the College World Series of Baseball, held every summer for 3 weeks. They do a collection program there. We've sponsored that there for them for 3 years. On-site ones, local companies such as ConAgra has their cafeterias where they do collection programs. So there's different ways of promoting the program locally, Earth Day events, things like that, for the local residents. So we refer to these as non-curbside collection programs. There's different metrics that a city is required to collect on a regular basis because we want to feed these in throughout as we go national with this program. The number of bags that's collected, the weight of the bags, and then we calculate the participation rate, the quality of the material. I mentioned we're going to do the first couple, and then I would suggest you strongly need to continue to look at the quality of the material that's collected through composition audits at the MRF. And we'll pay for the first couple, but someone's going to have to take that up. Maybe Renewology will want to be part of that too, because quality is critical for them. And if you don't have quality material, they can cut you off, just like China's cutting you off, right? And you don't have a home for these materials. This is just quickly the numbers in Omaha. The program's been growing. It's a small program there. This is the quality of the material that's been collected so far after the 6 or 7 composition audits we've done in Omaha. And we evaluate this on a package type point of view. So on package type, 65% are flexible packaging, which is really, again, where the program started to focus on. 24% are rigids. They're not focusing on rigids in Omaha, but they're already collecting 24% where people are saying, I can't recycle this, or they don't think they can recycle this, and they're putting it in the orange bags. And then 11% of the others, as I say, about 6% is paper. And we also look at it from a plastic resin type. 83% are considered acceptable plastic resin, polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene. These end markets have no problem with those. Where they have problems are these 6%, which are things like PET water bottles. Number one, water bottles should be part of your ones and twos that gets recycled, but PET contains oxygen. These technologies don't like oxygen. These are oxygen-free burns, so you put a lot of PET bottles in there, they won't like that. Their efficiency level will drop. PVC, vinyl, is not good for these materials too. It contains chloride. This is just to give you an indication. We've had a lot of media coverage of this program since we started in Omaha. Very, very positive. I'd say 99%, 99.9% has been very, very positive media coverage. We've won several awards. I won't go over those. You know, you do a program like this, collaboration across all the partners. No one company or no one city can do this strictly on your own. You can't just go buy the bags and try to do this on your own. You probably could. But I don't think it's worked the way it'll work on this program, based on our experience in collecting all the partners and helping you put all the partnerships together. So what's Dow's role? We could have called this the Dow Chemical Energy Bag Program. We didn't. We have no intention of doing that. Our intention is to be the one to bring the partners together, be the catalyst to get this going, and then we want to phase out of this. We don't have to be involved in hand-holding once the program's set up and running. We don't go away once the program's set up. We hold the hands and make sure it goes for like a year to a year and a half afterwards. But then it's now a self-sustaining program. We are actually doing a number of things to set the program up to grow nationally now. We've done the grant program, which is the Boise and Cobb County, Georgia were the two winners. I've just got agreement. We're going to do another round of awards for this year. Probably won't be implemented until 2019, but we'll be announcing them again by the end of the year because there's a whole bunch of evaluations that have to happen. They may not be the same dollar amount that Boise had because we're going to now do it based on population. Not just based on population, but population of the number of households that are part of the program. And I'm not going to go through a whole lot of those other details. So what are some factors for a successful program? You need, obviously, the local partners. You need a utility-based program. I think you guys have everything going for you. I mean, you've already got Boise, who's led the way in the evaluation. You got a MRF that's already on board. You got a hauler that's already on board. You've got the bags already made. These special, bigger quality, or bigger bags are already made. You've got a utility-based program. You've got a renewology. There's not very many of these pyrolysis facilities in the United States. I can count them all on one hand that I would suggest you work with. And renewology is one of them. We've got a very good relationship with them. These technologies are going to grow, but they're still small right now. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail like this, but these are what I use as a metrics when I evaluate a city. And I'd say the only thing that you don't have going for you right now, just because I don't know the answers of these, is getting local partners on board. I would strongly suggest you work with local brand owners, you work with local companies, because from a financial support, it can help you with the initial purchase of the bags, for example. It helps them getting promotion as being a sustainable company, particularly when it's a bag manufacturer or one of these products, one of these flexible or packaging material companies. I'm not sure what might be in the neighborhood here at all, but when they have their names out there of stuff that's going to the landfill, I know the P&Gs of the world and the Unilevers of the world, they are concerned, and we're working with them on what we're going to jointly do about it. And we're working with them on a number of other programs beyond this one. So I think that's my last slide. So I will stop there and see if there's any other questions at all.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Piper, can you give us an idea of what the cost of the bags are and what factors go into that? So do the bags cost different in different markets?
Yeah. So we started the program off with the intention if we could have the bags at $10 or less per kit, we thought that would work. Our analysis, this is going back a couple years now, we thought that would work. When we went to Omaha, the number was actually less than $8. It was like between $7 and $8. Actually, no, it was actually closer to $6 in Omaha for an 8-gallon bag. The 13-gallon bag is a more expensive bag. Number one, because it's a bigger bag, and number two, it comes in a 26-count roll. The 8-gallon bag comes in a 20-count roll. So it's a bigger bag, you get more of them in a kit. I'm not sure if I'm giving away anything by telling you the Boise price, but I would say it's in that lower $7 range.
So is that per kit or per
kit,
bag?
which is a year's supply of bags. A kit is a year's supply of bags.
Okay.
And again, included in that price is what I read off earlier. That's not just the manufacturing price, it's the delivery of the bags to a location. So if you order 30,000 homeowners are going to be involved in the program, it includes the delivery of 30,000 kits to one location, or where you want to do that, somewhere in the city, to be distributed by the city. We don't get involved in the homeowner distribution. It includes a small portion of helping you promote to the homeowners. We do that through Reynolds does that on their own to help the city with some of the local promotion. It includes the freight to the end market, so down to Salt Lake City, that's included in that price of the bags. It includes our 2 composition audits. It includes the broker's fee to work with the MRF to send it down there, arrange to get the truck there and send it down there, so their time. Our startup and technical support and the vetting of the end market company. So you can buy a cheaper bag, but it won't provide all those other things, and so you're going to have to pay for all those other things, I guess, as we did separate.
So does the MRF enter into a contract to keep or to accept their portion from this sale of the bags to cover their manual extra sorting that they have to do to get the orange bags separated and then for the additional shipping?
So as I understand the arrangement here is, at least in Boise, the city contracts with the hauler contracts with the MRF.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman and Andrea, I think Kendra's here, so she might be able to, I don't know the pricing that they get per, I know there's an incentive, like X number of bags, you get $1, and there are some incentives that are with Western, and I'm not familiar with what those are offhand.
Kendra, would you mind coming forward so we could have you identify yourself and speak into the speaker? Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just didn't want the record to.
Sorry, thanks, Kendra.
Hi, Kendra Neely with Western Recycling, and I haven't been in on any of the conversations on what the pricing is going to be with the bags and the MRF, and I don't know that they even know what the costs are going to be yet on added labor, added anything, so I think they're still trying to work out, what the added costs are going to be between the MRF and Republic. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
Thank you.
Part.
Thank you.
By the way, that is my understanding too, that they still have to work out that detail. Whether
Thank
it's
you.
included now that they're not taking the 3 to 7s in, and it's included now doing this, or whether it's some other, I don't know. I don't get involved in that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John, as far as your promotion that you have with the contest, I'm drawing a blank. You know what I'm talking about? Your grant, the grant. Okay, so that's not going to happen till end of this year, beginning of next year. Is that only for new participants, or if we were to start something to get going now, would we still be able to qualify for the grant? At least enter.
The grant program, I can give you general timing because I just got approval. This money comes from the Dow Foundation. It's $100,000 I've got from the Dow Foundation to provide grants, up to 4 grants. If it's 4, it's going to be $25,000 each. It could be two cities at $50,000 each, depending on, again, the size and the number of households. My general timing is we'll probably go out this spring to open it up for applications to come in probably ends around end of June. We'll then take the end of June, like July 1 through probably October to select who's going to win the grants and announce it, say, early, like November. But they won't be starting implementation probably till early 2019. So what I've said to, we have a whole bunch of cities calling us right now to want to do a program. So I'm not out selling this. I'm out to explain the program to you. The issue is not getting cities who want to do it. The issue is our resources on our side to help from a technical and help set up a program with all the partners. We are limited that way. In fact, Cobb County, Georgia, who won the grant this year, I've had to push them out to the fall to start up because we just don't have the resources to do all the cities, all the homeowners that they want to do. So if you guys are interested, we can work you in this system, probably squeeze you in the fall time period. If you want to wait and do a grant application, there's no guarantee that you might be a winner of the grant program. If you want to do it, and we can start working, say, after Boise starts up in April, May time period, I think is their general timing. If you want to wait till after that, we can start working with you till the fall. And I could probably give you $5,000 to help you with the purchase of the bags if you want to do that way, or risk doing the grant but may not winning it.
Okay, so the grant is, if we were to do the grant, we would need to wait to start the program until after
Yes.
we were awarded the grant.
Oh, if you do the grant?
If we were awarded.
Yes. So the
So we
announcement
can't
will
start
come out-
before the grant?
No.
Okay, that was
No.
the question.
Well, you
Can we still apply
No.
for the grant?
Right.
It's just to
So-
get you started.
Yeah, no, because again, it's a resource limitation that we have.
Okay, so the other question then was, based on some things you just said, a lot of different timelines. If we decided, the commission decided they wanted to do this, and they would present it to council, whatever, the city decides they want to go forward with this program as soon as possible, what would be the soonest that we would be able to get started?
As I say, sometime this fall.
So we couldn't even try to piggyback with Boise and what they're doing. We would have to wait till the fall? And what is the reason for that?
A limitation of our resources to go out and help you with.
And-
Although you got a lot of the partners set up already.
And Mr. Chairman and John and Genesis, I also know this is a unique bag that's being manufactured, and they don't have. It's my understanding there aren't 13-gallon Orange Energy bags ready to. I mean, they're manufacturing specifically for this market, and I think if you add, X number, say 30,000 households for another set of these, there's just manufacturing time in there too. So I know Boise has to wait for those to be made, and that's part of the delay, not delay, but that's just part of their implementation timeline. So, I guess if Meridian wanted to go with something smaller, but then back to the 8 or up to a 30, but this is a specific, I understand, at least from Boise's perspective, there's a wait time to get those manufactured because they're not a
the
standard
13-gallon
Reynolds.
bag is you're right. It's not a regular bag.
It's a custom.
that Reynolds makes. I guess what I can suggest. I mean, how many households are you talking about?
But it depends on if this is an opt-in program. We have a little over 30,000 households. No, it's not going to be 100%. So it's going to be less than that. And my guess is it would start probably fairly small and then hopefully grow. If Boise is doing all households, so I don't know. Does anybody have a better answer than that? Might be 5 or 10,000 to start.
If I could just ask a question on that, though, but if it's a utility program and you've got 30,000 households that are recycling today, why wouldn't you say to them, hey, we can't recycle the 3 to 7s, but here's a solution for that, and don't make it an opt-in, make it as part of, you're recycling it today, your 30,000 people or households. Now you're going to do it as the energy. We're recovering this from landfill. We don't want to send it to landfill. There's a cost for that. And have them now move from recycling to a recovery program.
I agree with you, but that's not my decision.
And Mr. Chairman and John, I agree also. However, I think the cost. So even though it's let's say $7 per household for a year, if we can maybe get sponsors to help with that initial rollout, but then beyond that, we'd have to cover the cost of the bag. So right now, landfilling those specific plastics is really, it's less than $7 a year. So it would probably mean a rate increase in order to add. If this was every household program, there would be an increase to the rates to cover the cost of the bags.
But the householder is paying to have those 3 to 7s recycled today.
No, they're being thrown away now.
No, but previously.
Previously,
A
yes.
couple months ago.
Right,
Is
and
their
they're-
rate now gone down then as a result of that?
Right. So plastics have been expensive for a while, and so now the MRF does not have the ability to market the 3 through 7. So we are asking all, all residents in the Treasure Valley to throw those away, or to not necessarily throw those away, but to not put them in the blue cart. Like if there's something else they want to do with them, that's fine. We just can't take them to the MRF because there's no end market for those. They're not.
So the household's recycling rate has gone down as a result of that just in the last few months?
Well, we're hoping it's going down. Yes. That is our outreach is saying these cannot go in the blue cart or the green cart with the red lid any longer. So, and that's a long-term, it's our understanding that plastics market will not be coming back. And so for us, right now, those are being directed to the landfill.
John?
I don't know, maybe I'm not answering this right.
I might go ahead and state on this that the 3 through 7s, we, through our characterization, know is about 1% of our stream. So while this is theoretically increasing the amount of material that's not diverted, it's pretty negligible.
Maybe my mind's too simple and I don't understand the dynamics of your system, but if the homeowner was paying X to recycle those 3 to 7s, which they're not allowed to do now, it's going to landfill, so their rate might have gone down. Why couldn't you put that same recycling cost back in there and have it recovered through an energy recovery program?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that that's the question to answer. I mean, that's kind of what SWAC is debating, Mr. Piper, and trying to gather information and so forth. So, I mean, I think that is a great question and one that we have been debating what's the best road forward with the recycling program. If I could, because I got to go back to work before
Go ahead,
too long, I'd like to
Commissioner
go
Hodge.
back to my question specifically for you, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Piper, can we talk about the Omaha program a little bit further? So you've said that the MRF doesn't open the bag, so the bag goes to the incinerator where it's converted waste to fuel, and it's, if I understood your slide correctly, about 11% contamination, right? 6% paper, 5% something else. Do they have to clean that out before they incinerate it? They throw the whole bag.
Yeah.
Paper, half a turkey sandwich, everything goes in waste to fuel.
No. Food is not, it's all
So if somebody
plastic.
cleans
It's
it out.
plastic. So the homeowner's instructed to
But when
clean
I'm
it,
talking
dry
about when
it.
it gets to the point of the waste to fuel facility.
So it gets to the MRF, they pull off the bag, the bags are never opened, it never goes
Right.
through the MRF, they bale it up, as all the energy bags now are baled up, shipped down to the end market, whatever that happens to be. In Omaha, it's just a cement kiln.
Waste to fuel, right?
It's a cement kiln. Waste.
To energy.
They
Waste to
burn it
energy.
for energy, right?
So
Waste-
yes, cement.
Waste to
It's
energy,
a cement
sorry, my
kiln.
bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, so they're
Well,
burning.
they like it for the heat value. They don't
Right.
put a fuel out. They make cement.
They
They like the heat value.
Create energy, they burn it, okay.
And so they take it as is, whatever that bag bale is, whatever in there, that they put in their facility, and it's
So they don't
acceptable.
need to they don't need to clean it. It's
don't need to do
different than renology.
Yeah, they might grind it up. I think they grind it up to a
But
certain
with whatever's
size.
in there.
But they don't actually sort anything out at that
Right.
time. Renewology does the same thing. They probably grind it up, I would think, for their process, but they don't.
We've been told that they are very, in fact, Rochelle just stated that super clean feed stream is what renology is. So I'm just trying to make the distinction between what Omaha is doing and what this program would be in terms of contamination level.
So what we-
11% contamination would not be doable for renology.
Well, it would be. So we've actually sent them samples of the Omaha material and given them all of our data from our analysis and said, would this be acceptable for your facility? And they said yes. They take as
Okay.
much as we
So
can
Rochelle,
send.
could you comment on that? Because that feels like you're saying two different things,
And that's it's kind of different from what Priyanka said.
said as well.
As
Like
well.
they can't take the water bottles, for example.
Right.
Well,
So
hopefully there's no water bottles in there.
No.
No.
The water bottles need to go to the landfill. We were
Right.
super clear on that.
Yeah, so I know her very well. We know them very, very well. I've been down there, I visited the facility, we toured them, and we've sent them samples, and I can tell you that they have accepted what we'll provide them. The same with the other one we're working with in Georgia. We've sent them same analysis, and they have no problem taking the quality material that, if it's consistent with what we're getting in Omaha.
Priyanka did say if there was contamination that they had to sort out, there would be a charge back for
Correct.
that.
If it's a high level, they can take certain amount of this, they can take certain amount of PVC, but if what she's saying, because in these multi-material laminate structures, a PVC layer in that is very, very small compared to the overall amount of polyethylene and other materials. But she's saying if there's a whole bunch of vinyl, and I've talked to her specifically about this, if there's a whole bunch of vinyl in it or a whole bunch of loaded water bottles, she may have to do some sortation out at that time, and there would be a charge at that time. But typically what's collected, typically in the multi-material stuff, she has no problem with.
So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Piper, would 11% contamination be considered a high level?
No, she's reviewed those data, and she's accepted that.
11% is acceptable for them?
Yeah.
Okay. May I ask
Yeah,
another
continue.
question? So the Citrus Heist program was discontinued because of the cost of shipping the product. And you mentioned Seattle. Was that a city that did a program, or that was where they were shipping it to?
That's where it was shipped
So
to.
Citrus
It was
was the only one, and then they discontinued.
and they had no intention initially. It was a pilot. It was a 3-month pilot. So it was no intention at the time to continue it. It was our first way of evaluating this type of system. And the technology that was shipped to converted, they've changed their model where they don't actually create a diesel fuel. They do strictly polystyrene and turn it into styrene. So they've changed their technology.
One more, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
if I
go
may.
ahead.
So has Omaha, what's happening in Omaha with this 3 through 7 issue that's kind of impacted everyone globally, right? So they were collecting 13 tons a year, or 13 tons a year, I think, of films and so forth. Now, with the 3 through 7s, are they landfilling them? Are they adding that plastic
In
bags?
Omaha?
Does that change the what's a year's supply of bags?
In Omaha, they're finding a home domestically for their 3 to 7s.
Do you have any information on what they've done?
I don't know that side of their business, but I know the Murph owner very, very well, and he says he's able to find homes. He's not making as much money, but he's finding homes for it.
So they're not, so the orange bag program has not changed. They're still taking just the films and so
Just-
forth. So
it's a flexible film
pretty
program.
different than what Boise is
Correct.
proposing.
This is the only one that's,
Yeah, it's first of its kind.
And Mr. Piper, but Omaha's is an opt-in program.
it's an opt-in program.
Opt-in. It's
They don't
been that
have a
way from the
utility.
beginning, and it still is.
Subscription.
Yes, because they don't have a utility model that you folks have.
What do they have then? I'm curious when you're viewing us as having this utility model, but what do they do?
They don't put it as part of their utility bill to the residents that say that you're paying for this anyway, whether you recycle or not.
So the hauler is billing?
What's the detail?
'Cause somebody is billing them, so,
They're paying, the homeowner is paying the hauler to come and pick up. So
Get
it's
stuff.
out of the homeowner's pocket to the hauler. to
Okay.
do it. It's
Okay.
not through the city as a
okay.
utility.
Gotcha.
Members of the commission, any further questions or comments?
Meg, do you feel like all your questions answered?
Commissioner Neal.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Piper, you know, back to your question, I think there's a little bit of confusion on the whether or not the homeowners rate for the homeowners have gone down because the 3 through 7s are being no, that the rate to the homeowners had, and the recyclables had value, and as these systems came online, the hauler, whether it was Republic or SSC, the recyclables all had value, and the recyclables offset the cost of actually going to the home, picking them up, et cetera. The recyclables have no value. The haulers having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to have this stuff hauled away. So you asked a couple or 3 times if the 3 through 7s are being removed, did the cost to the homeowner go down? No, it did not go down because, number one, it only makes up 1% of everything that's put in the recycling cart. So there's nothing to go down, quite frankly. The trash haulers having to pay a lot of money that they used to not have to pay before. So no, there's no money that could be used from a reduction to the homeowner to be used to buy the bags or anything like that.
So right now, the homeowner's paying the same amount, but you're not getting that revenue back by selling the recycling that's going to its cost to landfill. So if it was a program like this, then there's no revenue from a program like this then.
Right, and by, it's more expensive for us to recycle those than landfill them here. So for us to pull out the 3 through 7s, we just pay a little bit less to the MRF each month. But there's not a revenue stream to offset. And there's such a light weight material that we wouldn't expect a big savings from the landfill either. You know, if it's 1% of what we're landfilling, it's not like we can put money that we're saving in disposal toward the program either. So it's small enough that we just pay a little bit less to the MRF, and it's far cheaper for us, frankly, to landfill them here. But I mean, we're investigating this because we think it's a right thing to do, and there's a higher and better use, which is why we're looking at this. But we're just trying to figure out what the costs, the impact to rates would be on an ongoing basis. And maybe it's just if people choose to opt in, they pay for their own kit, and then that's just outside of, you know, the base rate for city residents. So.
Okay. That's good information. I did not know that.
Scott?
By removing the 3 to 7s, we're allowing higher quality recyclables to be resold and bring in revenue that way.
Yes, and to that point, if I could, a program like this actually helps a MRF in that regard. And we're actually trying to quantify that with a study that we're going to be doing. But by taking the loose material that's typically going through a MRF today, that's now can go into the energy bag program, you're now cleaning up the MRF's primary recyclable materials, including their fiber line.
Gary?
John, I just had a question. Currently on the market, there is a Hefty recycle bag that is blue. Is the difference between the orange bag, the energy bag, and this existing recycle bag just the program itself?
So Reynolds is a bag manufacturer. Mm-hmm. They make a whole bunch of different cleanup bags for a whole bunch of different applications. So we have partnered with them to provide a bag for this application. They chose an orange bag. That's their Hefty is Reynolds color. They wanted to do that. So they make a whole bunch of different bags. They're focusing the orange bag as their energy recovery bag. And again, it's a bright color so that the MRF operators can easily see it to hook it off. That's the reason it's a bright color.
So, Mr. Chairman and Carrie, I can probably add to that. In other markets around the country, we actually, as a hauler, have what's called a blue bag program, where recyclables are set out next to a trash cart in a blue bag, and we collect those by hand independently. Like in Montana, we have a blue bag program like that. So they're directed, they have a different end use. And in that case, they go to a MRF where they have a bag ripper and they rip it open, and then the materials are sorted that are in the blue bag. So they're designated for recycling instead of energy recovery.
And does that MRF have an optic sorter? Is that what makes the difference between there and here?
Right, yeah. Well, I don't know about an optical sorter, but it has a bag ripper. So it can, the recyclables that are in the blue bag program that we have around the country, you know, I don't know what they collect in the Montana market, but they collect recyclables in blue bags, and they just go to a MRF where the bag is torn open, the recyclables are then dumped on a line. But they're not optical sorting is for like different grades of plastics and different types of glass and things like that. So, I don't know if they have an optical sorter. They just have a bag ripper to rip those open.
Okay, Rochelle, so I think I misunderstood. So the blue bag isn't for the 3 through 7s.
No.
It's how their recycling program works, residential. Okay.
Just to the point, I just want to make sure Carrie knew that these bags would be directed to different end facilities. So to mix the orange and blue would not really work.
Issue.
It's an issue, yeah, thanks.
Members of the commission, additional questions? Mark?
Just be a clarification for me. We tend to do a lot of comparisons against other programs on other parts of the planet or the United States. So it seems that we have unique restrictions on the 3 through 7s from the West Coast that maybe Georgia and Omaha don't, because they're might be way closer to shipping things, you know, to the East Coast. And so we kind of be careful not to weigh too much on that they have a market that we might, because we are different, if I understand it.
I can't comment on where some recycler might send, what market they have. I don't know that detail.
I mean, that's just my impression.
Right, I think, Mr. Chairman, Mark, you're right. So on the East Coast, they have different markets than the West Coast, but for us to collect and ship these materials across the United States, either by rail or by truck, is cost prohibitive. So we're really relegated to West Coast markets over here.
So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Piper, I have a question. When the Boise representatives spoke to this commission, they represented that the vetting of rhenology had occurred. But today you're saying that Dow is initiating an environmental study or of rhenology. Could you explain the timing for that, and why are you doing that?
I understand the city had done some analysis themselves, some preliminary level. I haven't seen any of those results myself, but as the Dow Chemical Company, we get a lot of questions from groups, and so we want to make sure our own study is done. And I expect it done probably by the end of February.
So could we make a request on behalf of the City of Meridian that we receive a copy of the results?
I can definitely give you conclusions, whether I can give you the whole report or not. Yes,
Conclusions would be great.
Share conclusions, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions by the commission? Or comments? John, thank you for presenting to us. Like I say, we are in grave need of information, and you've definitely helped us on this. We've got to continue our information collection, and I look forward to seeing you this afternoon in front of Ada County. So,
Okay, good. Well, thank
if
you for
we
your time.
have additional questions, I assume you're receptive to having them emailed to you, or?
I can leave you a card, and by absolutely any phone or email would be fine. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
That's perfect.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'll get the link from John for the video, and then we'll circulate that.
Okay, great.
Andrea.
Now, Mr. Piper, I've heard that you are giving your presentation, and it was so helpful. We really appreciate you being here. What other local cities will you be giving your presentation to, just for our information?
I can answer that. You may not even remember. I mean, I have them on a warp speed tour through the Treasure Valley. So it's going to be meeting again with Boise, Ada County, Eagle, and Garden City.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Members of the commission, additional comments at this point? Now, being as we have completed all the work on our agenda at this point, then we have reached the time for, well, I can take it back. There is one more item, just that the next meeting, of course, is our regular meeting on February 28th, and I'll be working with Andrea on the agenda. So if you have any suggestions on the agenda, please forward them, but I know it's going to be fairly busy. Anyway, Andrea, you look like you have a comment.
Oh, I actually received a question for Mr. Piper via email. So could we just get you back up here and let me ask you if you know this? Thank you. The question is, how long will purchase price of bags at a set price subsidize the services provided, transport, broker, etc.? So whatever that purchase price of bags is set at, how long do you anticipate that it would subsidize the service, all the services that are being provided?
So the initial price includes all the components I went through. The replenishment of those bags, it depends on which model you go to. If you go to retail, the price could be different. It probably will be different at the retail model, but it'll still include those components that I talked about. It'll still include the freight down. It'll still include, you know, those aspects that I went over. But that's starting, the level of price may be different because it's based on what the Reynolds and their retail partner relationship they have, or whatever discounts they have, and then what the retail wants to charge on the shelf.
So the city, because I can envision costs going up across the board for shipping, for rhenology, for the MRF, you know, and yet the city isn't in charge of setting the price for the bags. That they belong to Reynolds. So how would a city handle the change in costs? You know, at some point I see the purpose of the question. It may be the price of the bags is falling behind the costs that are occurring, increasing locally for the reasons I said. Let's say the MRF's price goes up, or cost of processing, or sorting, or shipping, or what would the city's options be at that point? Because, you know, there are going to be so many variables at play in each local market. So it seems like the cities would have to make up the difference somehow. And would that be your answer? It would be up to each city to figure that out?
The city, if it's a retail model, there's no making up because the homeowner pays for that. And I think the incentive for Reynolds not to raise the price beyond a reasonable amount of cost difference is because they don't want the program to drop off.
But I guess what we're saying is what would happen, let's just say we start a program and it's $7 for the kit for a year's worth of bags. Based on Reynolds and Dow's market study that's going to cover all these costs. And then let's say 3 months later, the MRF realizes that they can't do this and they want to raise it, their costs a couple dollars per ton. So now the bags, what would happen at that point? It seems like the price of the bags for the year kit would fall behind what the actual costs are going to be. And we've had this scenario play out locally where Republic Services has had to cover the net costs, write those checks back to the MRF. So for the city, for us considering this program, I guess I'm curious. You know, we're being represented that the cost of the kit, as determined by, you know, other stakeholders, is going to cover all these local costs. In your mind, would that be up to each city to deal with?
Yes, because once you do the initial purchase, let's say 10,000 homeowners or 10,000 kits are ordered by the city, then it becomes a replenishment. If the price then changes based on the freight might double, say down to Salt Lake City, then that would be reflected in the replenishment of those. Once that homeowner's done that first year and needs to replenish it, depending on what model you go to, if it's a retail model, then that'll be reflected in that retail price at that time. If it's a utility model still, that the city still wants to be involved in providing those 10,000 homeowners with the kit, it'll be reflected in that replenishment of those kits after that first year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again. So have we completed all business that's on the agenda?
Yes.
Well, in that case, then I will go ahead and call this special meeting of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee adjourned at 12 minutes after 10. And commissioners, thank you so much for your additional time.